you see stuff like that, you can't tell me that racism doesn't exist. It does. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah, and most of these, like when the cops come over, they say like, "Oh, someone reported suspicious activity." Like there was this video where this black person, he was a student. I think he was like passing out pamphlets
mm,
for one of the politicians. Like he was standing up for election, so and someone reported saying like, "Oh, there's this like black person in this white neighborhood. He looks suspicious." Like, you know it's so hard. But speaking of the rioting and everything, what is your take on all these riots and the lootings that are happening? Do you find it justified, or do you find it like it's a distraction, like it takes away from the conversation?
okay. So, and I had to think a lot on this. Think hard on this one because when you think about all the pain and all the anger that Black people are feeling, um, like I can see why the riots happen. I mean, and it's just they're frustrated, and this is the result. And while I can't advocate the looting, I can't, I'll be honest, I don't really care about like big corporations like Target or
Hmm.
like some of those other stores that they hit. But you know what I mean? Like I can't really condone like the small mom and pop stores getting rioted and looted. I mean, the way I look at it is, I mean, this is almost like a war,
Hmm.
and in war, it's rare that you don't have civilian casualties,
Collateral damage.
collateral damage. That's the word I'm looking for, and that's how I look at it. And it's sad, but also it's also sad that Black people are getting killed unarmed.
Hmm.
So it's like there's not going to be, you know, it's not going to be pretty on either side. Is the way I view it. So the way I say is, look, I don't condone it, but I'm not going to speak against it because I can't tell these people how to act. When you're killing them, and you peacefully protested over and over again, and they didn't hear you. And so now things got to get ugly. And you know what I mean? It to me, it is what it is. It has to get ugly at this point. It has to
Yeah,
get ugly.
I usually compare it to like like my son, when he tells me something and I ignore him, when he tells me something again I keep ignoring him, and there
Right.
comes a point where he like does something to grab my attention, and I'm like, okay,
Right.
it's that, like, because we always talk about how Colin Kaepernick started this
Yes.
modern movement, and he did it peacefully.
Peacefully.
um, and I forgot the guy from the Carolina Panthers. Uh,
Oh God, Eric Reed.
Eric Reed, like all of them, like they bonded together, and they there's this guy, he used to kick for the Indianapolis Colts, Pat McAfee. He has a show on YouTube, and he spoke recently saying how there was this like really intense conversations in the locker room when Colin Kaepernick, was kneeling down and protesting, how the locker room was divided in the sense that some people agreed with what he was doing, some people didn't, but it led to this conversation. And we always say that how people, when all these rioters and looters, are doing what they're doing, people come out and say, oh, they should do this peacefully, there's a better way. But it's like, it was already tried, the better
Right.
way
Yes.
was already,
Yeah.
it has been done. And what were the consequences? The guy lost his job, you know
Yeah.
and then people started saying like, oh, he's not a good quarterback, oh, he
Guy
doesn't
was
fit
in
in
the
the
Super
system.
Bowl. People
Exactly.
forget about that. He was
Guy
in the
was in the
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl. Like,
Yeah.
it's just those conversations, like they started putting all these other things on him, like, oh, he's got a weak arm, he can't do this, he can't do that, can't have a job. And it's like, and now it's like, whenever you hear Colin Kaepernick and NFL, it sounds like they're just using him like a pawn for a publicity stunt. Like, oh, we'll bring you in, we'll do
Yeah.
some kind of like, workouts with you, but we'll say you're not, good enough. But
Right.
yeah, it's like, it's hard. Like, like I've had certain conversations with my friends on Facebook and other forums, and some people just are adamant where they say, like, oh, racism exists everywhere and it's always existed. Why is it our problem now? Or why is it America's problem? Why is racism, you know, a world problem, just America's
Right.
to solve? And it's like,
Right.
it's really hard to make those people understand, like, yes, racism exists everywhere, but
Right.
it's like, if you take racism to be a virus, there are stronger strains and there are weaker strains of that virus. And what's
Right.
happening in America to, like, the African American community is the strongest strain of that virus, you know and we got to address that. But yeah, I mean, it's like, probably, like, the last question I have is, like,
Mhm.
what would be the beginning, of a solution for you? Like, what would signify, like, okay, maybe this is not the final solution, but we're on the path to, finding something significant that'll end, all this uh, bias, all this bigotry, all this, like, discrimination towards Black and African American people.
Man, all right. So that's a very complicated issue, man. I think for one, man, this conversation, the fact that we're even having these conversations, that's a great start, because a big part of this is just understanding that we're human just like any of you guys. You know what I mean? We may dress a certain way and you may not like it, but you just don't understand where we come from, or how we do things. And I think just understanding, and people having a dialogue to see our side of the story, we can understand each other better. I mean, another thing is, I think we need better legislation. Now, I don't want to get into like Republican Democrats, because this has been happening regardless of party.
Hmm.
But we still need better legislation. People who are willing to actually go ahead and do something, especially with police reform, because you see these cops. I mean, yes, it's mostly, well, at a higher rate, Black people, but you see them using aggressive force with all kind of races. So we definitely need police reform, and that's one of those things that we definitely need to do. It's going to be hard to end racism. I don't think we could like end racism, but I mean, having good police reform, I mean, that is a start. I mean, you can look at some of the stuff they do in Japan, with their police force, and how they, do everything they can not to be violent. You know what I mean? Where in America, it's almost like a shoot first mentality.
Hmm.
And we just gotta have a better understanding. I mean, you can go to some cities, you might, like, I can go to some cities and might not get any kind of discrimination at all. But it's going to be other cities where, cops pull me over for no reason, asking, you know what I mean? So it's not bad everywhere. And we just got to get that understanding. And most importantly, when these cops step out of line, we got to make sure that they're punished for it, because that's going to set the standard. When other cops see these bad cops going to jail, that's going to make them think twice before they put a knee on,
Hmm.
or they're going to think twice before they hurry up and pull the trigger. And but again, as far as racism, man, it's like it's about understanding each other. Because I had a conversation with someone recently and said, oh, well, these cops, they fear for themselves. They fear, but they seem to fear for their lives twice as more than any other race when it comes to Black people. You know what I mean? We're not, We're not violent. We're a person just like, any other person. So it's like, why do you fear us twice as much as another race? You got to understand that we're people, just like anyone else. So just have understanding that we're people. We got families. We got kids. We got daughters, sons, mothers, fathers, just like you. And people just need to have a better understanding of empathizing. And not only that, it needs to be in our education system. because
Yes.
racism is a learned behavior. It is not something that is inherited. So I think that's something that also needs to be put in our education system as well.
That yeah, that I believe that it's something that you know no child is born with racism in their DNA. It's something
Yeah.
that is taught either in their house or
Hmm.
in their culture,
Yep.
in their surroundings.
Right.
I've seen people like whenever there's any reports on African American, anything, it's instantly how you react to it. And I've seen people of my community drop the N word, and this is in India. Yeah, it's definitely like that's the purpose. Like when I reached out to you, it's like I want to have conversations regarding an issue with people of like different diversities, different cultures, and get their perspective, on what's happening. And
Yeah.
like I might not agree with a lot of things, you might not agree with a lot of things, people who are watching this might not agree with a lot of things, but that's the point. It's to talk about those disagreements and explain to each other like this is why we're protesting against this or we're talking about it. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, thank you, because this is the first of I'm hoping many shows that I can do
Yeah.
of the colored conversation, because I feel like we need to talk. um I was told yesterday by someone to get off my high horse, and because I like to make awareness regarding these things. And
Right.
I guess it was like people considered me posting on Facebook or making videos as me being some sort of like privileged person, sitting on my high horse over here, on the Iron Throne, and doing things. But thank you, Mansoor. Thank you for doing this.
And no problem. And I just want to say another thing, man. And this is why this is so great, man. Is because it's really all about education, man. Because a lot of these people, they're not bad people. They just don't understand. You know what I mean? So I mean, because you look at Drew Brees, man. Drew Brees has done a lot of great things for the
Hmm.
community, and he's a great guy. You know what I mean? But some people just don't understand. What what is going on with the black community, and they just need to be educated, and they just need to sit down and have a conversation, and that's how we can move forward.
Absolutely. Like, yeah, like with that, well, how people say, like, just because you and I and the people are saying Black Lives Matter, it doesn't mean that all the other lives don't matter. Like somehow
Yeah.
that's the perception people have. Like, like nobody's out there saying only Black Lives Matter.
Right.
That's not the hashtag, or that's not what's written on the placards.
If,
Is
if that
there's
was if that was really the case, all y'all would be marching. All y'all would be protesting.
exactly,
Yeah.
and they'll be like the media also will portray it in a more like better way, because I feel like the media also just
Right.
twists things. The narrative is so bad when it comes to like what people are honestly trying to bring a change to. Because I mean, you have kids, I have Emmanuel, so it's like
Yes.
I feel like it's our job to make sure that the society is better for
Mhm.
them than what it is for us today. It's an obligation you, me, and everybody else has to future generations, that things that we go through today, the deaths that like the African American people go through at the hands of the police, or just the bias, to people calling me like a terrorist or a red dotted Indian, and things like that.
Right.
That needs to stop. That's not
Right.
tolerable.
No.
It shouldn't have been tolerated in the past, it shouldn't be
Right.
tolerated now, and it definitely should not exist in the future. But once
Absolutely.
again, Mansoor, thank you for this.
Hey,
um,
thanks for having me.
I'm definitely going to bring you back, to talk about other things, to get your
Cool.
perspective, because as you know, I like have a tremendous respect for you. So,
I
but thank
appreciate
you.
that, man.
This is the history, because this is going to be the very first episode, and you're the very first guest. So,
Awesome, man.
thank you.
All
Take
right.
care.
Thanks for having me, man.
Bye.
Take care, man.